Welcome, everyone, to January's Ambassador-led webinar. I'm your host, Tisha Poncio, lead of education and community at SMART. And today we have such a treat for you to kick off your 2026 Lumio learning. But first, we want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So we like to get that out of the way before we bring the star of the show up. So the first thing is to know that if you're here, you are going to get a recording of this session. And this recording will also be uploaded to YouTube later on. But registering for these webinars is going to get you quick access. That recording is going to come to your inbox. You will also get a certificate at the very end of every webinar. So you're going to want to stay until the end, until we give you the survey link. You're going to fill out that survey link to get your certificate of attendance. And the last thing is we want you to follow us on all of the social medias. That's where you're going to get all of the most recent news. And as well, we would love for you to take photos of this webinar during this webinar of anything that our ambassadors are sharing and shout those things out. If something is resonating with you, we want to see what is really meaningful to you. And so as I introduce our host, I'm going to ask all of you who are viewing, actually tell us, where are you in the world? What is your location? What is your role? And tell us one great thing that has happened since 2026 has been in play, which has just been a couple of weeks. So Julie, shout out Houston, Texas. I'm also tuning in from Texas. And today's ambassador star of the show is Liz Chavez. Welcome, Liz. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I am so excited about this webinar with you. And I wanted to kind of give everybody an overview of what ambassador-led sessions are. So here is what we're doing. We are amplifying all of you who have been using Lumio and SMART for years in your classrooms using strategies that you know and love. We want to give you the ability to amplify and get on a stage and share that with a global audience. It also gives you guys a chance to meet up. So if you don't know Liz, you're going to really know Liz well by the end of this session. And we want you to connect with Liz. She wants to know who you are, where you're from, what you do, what are you doing that she maybe hasn't thought of, and you can start exchanging ideas. We were looking through some of the registrations, and I just want to shout out a couple of people. I did see someone from Denison ISD, which is in Texas, and someone from Birdville ISD. Liz, that is in my neck of the woods. April Hernandez, I've known for a very long time, so it was great to see her name on there. But today we're going to spotlight you. You are the star of the show. And I want to give everybody a little overview of Liz Chavez, because if you don't know her, I don't know why. I don't know that there's a great excuse for that, because Liz has actually been teaching for 15 years. 15 years is a long time to be in the classroom. She has been using SMART and Lumio for 14 years, and she has seen the beginning of Lumio all the way to now. Incredible leader in the ambassador community, has been an ambassador for the last 3 to 4 years. And so what we want is we want Liz to kind of share. I'm going to let you tell who you are, what you do, what are your passions. But you are from Green Bay. And my question is, have you always taught in Green Bay?
Yes, I have always taught in Green Bay, or all 15 of those years. So I'm proud to represent my Green Bay, Wisconsin, United States area for sure.
Yeah, we see a ton of you in the registrations and in the chat. So we would love to know more about what you love about working with Liz. If you work with her, I see Shelly in the chat, and Shelly and Liz, you were presenting at FETC last week, correct?
Yeah, we did. We did a presentation that actually showcased Lumio and how to use it for different activities to differentiate student learning. So I'm excited to bring some of that into today's webinar as well.
Absolutely. And we're so thankful that you guys took time to share. And if you are an ambassador and you want to share, you want to connect, you want to be on an ambassador led webinar for any of the months, you can reach out to me directly, send me an email, shoot me a DM on socials. And we also want you to share and really follow Liz's modeling, present at the conferences. Just because you presented it to your district doesn't mean that the rest of the world doesn't need to hear it. So it could be something that you've been teaching for years and you're just now sharing it with a different audience. So, Liz, are you ready to get started?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do this.
Okay, so I'm going to be pointing out some things from Liz because the way that she structured this particular lesson for you is actually really a great suggestion for how you would use Lumio and start with your class. So Liz, as I'm popping this in the chat, please tell us how you really came up with this lesson and really the strategies for how you're going to get everybody engaged and included.
Yeah, no problem. So the biggest thing is when I was creating this activity lesson for you guys today, I wanted to make sure that I was talking the talk and walking the walk. So what that means is if I'm going to be showing how to engage our student learners, I wanted to make sure that I was engaging you guys in different ways as well. So there's going to be lots of interactivity within this and also within the chat. So don't hesitate to interact, ask questions, all those sorts of things. So it's going to be very hands-on learning, but also along the way, I structured it to stop and have you self-reflect on, okay, how would this look in different content areas? How would it look maybe in a professional development for my own staff? How does this tie into our district goals? How does it tie into my professional goals? So it's meant to help you reflect on your own practices and take them to the next level for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to pop this in the chat. Liz, I'm going to be backstage. I'm going to let you run the show, but I'm going to be here. And so just be expecting me to pop in every so often. And we want to shout out everyone from Italy because I see some people in the chat. And I'm going to be in the chat. So if you have any questions about your video, your audio, or anything, I'm going to be taking care of you. We want you to go to the Lumio link that is in the chat, and Liz is going to walk you through that as if you're her student. So you guys have fun.
Absolutely. All right, Tisha, I'm ready to get this started. So in the chat, you should see a link to lumioclass.com. And within that link is my class code that it's embedded. It is 377412. So I'd love to see people joining. And on my screen, if I click in the upper left-hand corner on the person icon, I can actually see all of these folks over here that have joined already. So we have about 9 folks. So again, click on that lumioclass.com link that's in the chat, and the code is 377412. All right, y'all. So I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to keep going as people are joining here. And the first page there we go. It just talks a little bit about who I am. And I do want you to know that not only am I an ambassador, am I super passionate about technology integration specifically for our arts and performing arts classes, but I'm also a mom. I'm an athlete, a musician. My background is very diverse when it comes to where I've been in education and where I am now. But the biggest thing that I've learned in my own journey is that I'm a super fierce advocate to improve tech integration across multiple content areas. So I want to make sure that, Lumio is not just for math. It's not just for literacy. It is for all of our performing arts classes out there too. Okay. And Jonathan, I know I am a musician.
I had to come in and ask this because Liz and I talked about this a lot in our planning stages of this webinar. And what we really want to stress to you is that even if you aren't teaching any performing or visual arts, every single thing that Liz is going to show you will work across the board with your grade levels and your content areas. And yes, Jonathan asked the question of the day, Liz, what do you play?
Oh gosh, I'm actually mainly a vocalist. So I was classically trained as a singer, but I also play ukulele, guitar, piano, African drums. So I love to try and dabble in different things.
This is incredible. I am fascinated by that. And a little known fact, did you know, Liz, that I also play the piano?
I did not know that. I'm
I
not
do.
surprised though.
Yes, I think the creativity that it takes to do an instrument and really get into that creative place, right? It really
Right.
will transfer over into you creating your lessons and creating all of your Lumio activities for your students, and then that makes them more creative. So we're excited to see what you have next. I really am going backstage now, Liz.
No, it's totally fine. I love it when you interject because this is a great conversation to have. And it shouts out, like I see a lot of people in the chat, like they're excited about being a musician too. So it's great to hear from y'all. But now that brings us into a segue of how do we really increase engagement in our performing and visual arts classes with Lumio? But more so, how can we really do it in any class, right? So the biggest thing is that Lumio, from what I've experienced, it gives our students a space to do all of the things that you see on our screen. Be a creator, have a chance to collaborate with kids or their colleagues and classmates in different ways. It gives them a chance to show off their different skill sets that they have. It also gives them a chance to share their voice in different ways. So let's hop right in, and we're going to talk about student voice and collaboration examples. And this first one is just a great way to kick off your class. And I did it again, it's a music-based activity, but really I want to hear from you. Which music genre do you think depicts your personality? So then you're going to drag the microphone icon to whichever one you think. And some days it might change based on how you're feeling. So today I'm feeling very musical theater. So I'm going to go ahead and drag mine over there. And as you guys are adding in your microphones, I can actually click on the microphones and click the drop down arrow, and I can see, oh, Tisha's feeling classical,
I had to come in
right?
and say this because this is going to be interesting. And what I love about this activity, it's something that I used to do with my students. I used to ask them what song was their walk-up song whenever they would come to my
Right.
class, because it told me so much about their state of mind. And normally I would be listening to Eminem because I like Eminem, right? But lately
Right.
I've been in a classical mood and I've been listening to like Bach and Beethoven, which should tell you a lot about my mood right now, Liz.
I love that. And like, honestly, as I click on the rock and roll microphones and I see Marit and I see some of these other individuals, so that tells me that they're really amped up. That's how they're feeling today. Jazzy people might be the type of people that are like, I'm just going with the flow and it's going to be very impromptu type situation. So again, this is just a good way to gauge your class. You could also do this with visual arts, and you could say, what style of art best depicts your personality, or maybe different languages that you speak. So it's just a good way to kind of get a gauge of where your students are at. Okay, we're going to keep moving along. And you may have noticed that your screen changed when I changed mine. And that's because in the top left corner right now, I am in teacher paste mode. I am not allowing students to go paste in their own way. I am pasting it. So now we're going to dive into some more examples here of how students can collaborate or create or just have that student voice. And this is an individual handout that's really basic. It's very simple. And again, it's a music-based one. But essentially what it is it would allow students to write music compositions. And writing for a lot of our students is tricky. And you'll notice like all they have to do is drag the music notes into the boxes and they could create their own music. But as I drag down my directions here, what they could add to this is you could have them perform it in class. You could have them record themselves if they wanted to record it individually, because some of our students don't like to voice it in front of other kids. They may want to record themselves instead, but it gives you a piece for them to create in their own way. Okay. And
Liz,
then in the top,
I have a question about this,
yeah.
actually. Did you use a template to put this together, or did you do this just from scratch?
So this one I did from scratch. I just added the lines and things like that. And then the images I grabbed from the gallery icon as I was creating, which made it super simple. I just did like a quick search and I was able to add these in, and they're infinitely cloned. So it allows the objects to be used as many times as they want. And it just makes it easier for kids then. And they can always delete them if they need to, sort of thing. Okay. One other addition I wanted to make here is that in the top right corner for this individual handout, there's a talking head icon. And that talking head icon, since it's an individual handout, that talking head is meant to give audio directions, which is really great because then if our students are like, but Miss Chavez, I completely forgot what I was supposed to do. Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead and click on that talking head and they'll get those directions read to them or spoken out loud. I've also used this for translation into different languages because you have like a 5-minute maximum of how long you can record. Although I'll be real honest with you, my own attention span is like 30 seconds. So if you're going to record for 5 minutes, you better be throwing a joke in there. Otherwise, people might stop listening after a while. So, okay, so that was just one example, but I'm going to keep moving through examples. And then as we go, if you guys have questions, let me know. And I can see that some of you are working on this, like Mrs. Grady, she worked on it and she turned it in. That's great. I can even arrow through in the top right corner if I want to look at other students who have been working on it. I love it. So I can see my students' work in a snapshot either on this handout screen, or I can click on the individual students as they've turned them in or they're working on it. All right, y'all, I'm going to kick you out of this activity and we're going to keep plugging away. So now that last activity was an individual handout. What do y'all notice about this one? It is a group workspace. So what that means is I've taken the same composition template, but now this time I've turned it magically into a group workspace. So I'm going to click on setup and I'm going to say, oh, I want 8 teams. Now, in theory, you would want this to probably just be partners, right? And for the most part, I think I did okay on it. It looks like our groups are a little uneven. However, I could say, you know what, Tisha and Amber, you may not get along very well, or maybe we need to reconfigure these groups. I can move Tisha, so I'm going to click and drag, and I can move her into a different group if I know that the students maybe need to be reconfigured.
Okay. Can we just talk about how amazing I think sometimes whenever ed tech tools and the developers and the engineers are thinking through that one thing for me as a teacher is going to be a game changer because I have the power to move the troublemaker or the person who has ADHD to a different group. Right. Because they respond to different people. That's such a great, I have not seen it that quick, Liz. So this is going incredible. I'm learning from you. I don't know who my groups are. Let's see, who am I with? Jeff? Am I with Jeff? Okay. We're going to get ready.
And that's the thing is like, maybe even if the students, they may struggle a little bit to work with each other, technically to do this, they don't even have to sit next to each other. So they can still be in their own workspace, but they're technically working together, which is really great. Now, with that in mind, on my group workspace page here as a teacher, I can quickly pop into any of these teams and I can see their progress. And again, in the top right, I can page through my teams to see how they're doing. And you'll notice on this template, I did something a little different. So in my infinitely cloned icons, I added audio to them. That's a newer feature that launched, I believe, this last year in Lumio. Is when you're setting this template up on the background, if you know students need to hear it, see it, and maybe clap it themselves or experience it, you can add audio to specific objects, which makes it super helpful for all of our visual kinesthetic learners, right? And then as students compose here, I can just go through the team, see how they're doing. Are they playing nice in the sandbox together? Are they struggling a little bit? Like, do they need a little bit of guidance from me? But otherwise, my teams are off and running and they're composing together. The other thing I want to point out is that part of my directions here for this page is that on the right side, partner 1 would have to record their audio for their composition. Partner 2 would record their audio for what they compose down in the bottom row. So again, they're separately doing it, but now they're bringing that work together. And then my next step after this is, because it's a performing arts class, I would have them perform this in class if they're comfortable with it, like to showcase doing those rhythms together so that you could have like a final performance if you really wanted to. All right, y'all, I'm going to keep plugging away because I have a lot more to show you. But let's pause here. If you wanted, this is a whole class whiteboard experience. And this was a template that I grabbed from the ready-made resources in the library. And I just grabbed the template and I added my question at the bottom. But now you are going to take one of the hexagons and you're going to drag it out and answer the question on the screen. How could you leave feedback for students when they're doing different activities? What are some of the ways that you would leave that feedback? And I love seeing this live. It's really fun. Purple is my favorite color. So the more purple I see on the screen, the more excited I'm going to get.
I didn't even tell her to say that. Purple is a smart color. I was laughing. Behind you, you have all of the colors of your t-shirt, Liz. And it looks like you planned it that way.
I'm glad that you think that. Oh, somebody said stickers. I love that. So on the left side, as a teacher, you can always grab the stickers, which is in the heart plus image icon. And the stickers are right at the top. So that's like a great way to throw a sticker out there. Oh, I see people playing with them. Y'all found it. I love it. That's great. Yeah, a quick audio recording. Yeah, since you can record, you could leave feedback that way if you're a talker. Oh my gosh, leave feedback through a hip hop diss track. Oh, that's so great. Add audio. Yeah, add text. A lot of people, I've seen them add text onto the page. The only suggestion that I would have, and maybe this wouldn't work for all of your learners, but when you add text to a student's page or a workspace page, maybe put it in a different color so that the students notice it. But that may be tricky if your students are colorblind. So just keep that in mind.
I think this is a really good talking point here with the accessibility piece, right? I always say, you know your students best. And so if your students want text instead of audio, if I was in your class, Liz, and I was your student, I would ask for audio on 2 times speed so that I can quickly get the feedback and keep going. But I think there are so many different variations. And I think what Lumio does well is it really meets all of those accommodations and accessibility pieces, no matter what student you have in your class.
Right.
These are great.
I know. Okay. Thank you everybody for this. I'm going to keep going because I have more to show you. So this next one is more of a showcase of how you can add audio to different objects and do an activity together with your whole class. You could also do this as an individual handout. I know my music people that are in this call are going to be super excited, but again, this doesn't have to be musical instruments. This could be identifying different types of art. It could be moving letters, and you could attach audio to the letters themselves so the students can hear them. And maybe they're separating by vowels and consonants. Maybe they're separating by languages, different words. This activity right here could go so many different ways. Now, I noticed a lot of you figured it out real fast. You figured out that there are instruments with audio sounds, and then you divide them into the instrument families. I did put a little teacher note on the side there that somebody found. I found these sound bites on free resources, at least in the United States, and this is for all education staff on Sounds Abounds and Pixabay. You can actually find audio that you could use to add to different things. And that includes like letter sounds too. I've even found that on Sounds Abounds.
Liz, can you say those 2 things again? Pixabay and Sounds Abounds, is that right?
Yeah. Okay. And I listed them right here in this teacher note. Sounds Abound and Pixabay. You can get free audio files, and they're what's that called? They're not they're copyright free.
Yes, they're copyright free. Look at you practicing digital citizenship with our ambassadors and community members here too. I love that. I was actually looking at your activity, this whole class whiteboard, and I was thinking of it. I was an ELA teacher, so I would have the images of the books that we were going to read in class for that year, maybe even doing it, right now at the beginning of a semester, the beginning of the year, and having them guess which place they go into, and then going back and seeing if they were right at the end of the semester or the quarter. So yeah, you can apply this to anything. This is so fun.
I love this. And I do want to point out, this is a whole class whiteboard. And if at any point things are getting out of control, I can in the top right corner toggle off this little feature that says everyone can edit. which means y'all can't move anything anymore. You can't do anything. I'm the only one that holds the keys here, which allows teachers to have a little bit of say in what's happening in their whole class whiteboard experience.
And it was
all right,
just
y'all,
a
let's
single
keep going.
click, right?
Yeah. This one, I have to just give a shout out. I know I'm showing a lot of music examples. We'll get into some of the other performing arts stuff here. This one is a composition one again. And I did put the directions up in the top right corner where you just pull on the little disco ball. And I love to do that. I love to hide little things. And I've taught people, I use the same icon throughout my entire lesson with kids. So they always know, oh, I need to grab the disco ball if I need help. Or maybe it's a music note, maybe it's an artist brush, whatever it is. So pick something that's visually appealing for kids so they know that's where I can get my directions if I need to read them, right? I do need to give a shout out here though, because this particular template I took from the manipulatives that are available in the Lumio library. So I'll be real honest with you, I didn't do a whole lot with this one. I grabbed it from the library. I decided which ones were going to be infinitely cloned and which symbols the students were not ready to use yet because they're not ready to compose with those. So this music template is available in the library, but I'll be honest with you, there's a ton of ELA templates in the manipulatives. There's math ones in there. There's mind maps, all kinds of stuff. So check out the manipulatives and the ready-made handouts at some point when you're ready.
Okay, we have a question, Liz, and this is an important question. I also love the pull feature, and we want to know, how did you get it to just go in the one direction? Like, what is your strategy when you're creating that pull feature?
Right, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go into, do you mind if I go into edit here for a minute?
Please go into edit. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. Even if I'm in a live lesson, I can click on the little 3 horizontal lines in the top left, or I call it a hamburger. And then from here, you can click on edit session. And now on your end, it's just paused. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into edit activity in the top middle area. And yes, I want to edit. What I did was, in order to create this, these are all stickers. So the little, gosh, what's it called now? The words pull is a text box. The arrow and the disco ball are actually from the stickers. So I just grabbed stickers, I put text, and then I grabbed a shape, and then I added a text box over the top. I grouped all of the objects together. So let me unlock it. So these objects are all grouped together. I can ungroup them. But in this case, my favorite feature is I did allow horizontal move. So what that means is it's going to lock everything in the size and format that it is, but it allows me to quickly drag it over if I want to hide stuff. I do that all the time on my pages just because it makes it more fun and interactive for people. And then when I'm done making my changes, I'm going to click finish editing in the top left. And now it should be live again. Now, I forgot to make it magical. Good grief. So I'm going to go back in and edit. Y'all are going to see this. In order to make it magically happen for kids, so if it needs to be an individual handout or a group workspace, I have to click on that magic icon in the top right. And then from here, I have to choose individual handout, group workspace, or whole class. Now I'm going to make this an individual handout, and now it is magical. That magic doesn't happen until you click on that magic wand. Okay, now I'm going to finish editing. And then it becomes an independent handout for all of you guys. Okay, I think I answered the question and I gave a few extras too.
That was incredible. Thank you for that demo. I did not know how to do that either. But what I think is so fascinating about it is I always think of things in terms of me or my son. We're both neurodivergent. And it may be that I need to review those instructions, and I just have the ability to review them and then pop them out of the way so they aren't distracting me, right? So I think that it's also an accessibility feature there that maybe you haven't been using yet. So Liz, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Now I'm going to get into visual arts. And also for some fun extra, I added in some world language templates here too, because whether people realize it or not, world language classes, when you're learning the language, you have performance tasks and standards And it's important for kids to have a place where they can converse in that language that they're learning. But let's focus on the visual arts first. So now I'm an art student and I want to have a place to put my artwork, and I want to have a place where I can give my artist statement. So in our school district, we have a few art teachers, and I'm going to shout out them because this is not my original idea. This is 100% an example from our teachers here. But again, the purpose of this is that the students would add their image of their artwork that they've done in class, whether that's a clay model or whether it's a painting, whatever it is. They would take a picture on their device, and then in the left side, they would click on that image icon and they would select an image or upload it from their own device, and then they can resize it and bring it onto this page. But then as an added bonus, what they would do next is they would click on this black microphone icon, click the drop down, and from here, they can attach audio. So our teachers, we have the art teachers that use this, they actually have the students record their artist statement. So this is where I had an art teacher, and I have to share this with you. She said that she had a student in her class that did not speak, like could not get them to participate, could not get them to interact with other students in class. And the moment she started doing this portfolio with the students, it was the first time that she had heard the student's voice. And so I think it's really important to give them a place because they might not feel safe doing it in class. But this artist now felt empowered to say, you know what, this is my artwork. I'm really proud of it. But now this is what I'm going to do next to make sure that my art goes to the next level. And the beautiful thing about that is you're giving them a voice, you're giving them a place to show their skills, all kinds of different things. Okay. So I hope you love this one.
Okay,
I love it.
I did it. I was doing it while you were talking, so I hope everybody watching was actually participating. Now it's not great because I was just kind of practicing. But what I do want to say, Liz, I want to reiterate what we've talked about. You know, you may just be you may be a performing arts teacher. You may be doing all sorts of things. I saw somebody in the chat who is an ed tech leader and also does performing arts. Here's the key with this particular activity, and you're going to know that it's my passion because I did it with my students. You can put together portfolios with your students, and it is so easy. You don't have to overthink it. This is a great example. I had a student who also would not speak, but was brilliant. He just wouldn't speak because he was an introvert and he really didn't want to stand out in class. And what he did is not only did he create images and put them in a portfolio, but I also gave him the option to create a video. And he created a video telling a story with himself without saying a single word. And that's really what I want to say here. This is a great beginning activity to start getting to know your students, but then building a portfolio over time, and then they can see their growth. So this is already by far my favorite activity. And I see Mara is in the chat. She loves portfolio. She's done portfolio sessions for Lumio. I just think this is incredible. And you can hit so many learning goals with this one activity.
Right. And I'm glad you guys are excited about this because now I'm going to bring in a few more things specifically for doing portfolios, whether they're art, ELA portfolios, doesn't matter. I did add in this little, how do I actually add audio? Because this is the other thing that Lumio allows you to do. You can add in video content from YouTube. So if you ever need to give your students directions, or if you need to give directions to other educators like you guys today, I embedded this YouTube video if you're like, how do I add audio to the page, or how would I have my students do that? So that is in here, but then I need your voice now. So what I want to know is I just gave you a portfolio page for an individual art student to showcase their art. But how would you take that activity to the next level for students if you were doing an individual portfolio page? So take a moment and do the shout it out activity here. And I will see your responses appear on my page. I'm guessing there's a little bit of a lag. Okay, so I'm going to click on this one that says JNA. And as you guys are thinking, I'm clicking on your tiles as they pop in. And what this allows you to do is it makes it easier for my old eyes to read. So it elevates the text for me. And then I can also highlight that for the other students so they can see different ideas of how you might want to elevate that. Put them in groups so they could learn to give and receive feedback. 1-star shining thing and 1 improvement. Yeah, like a glow and grow type situation. I love that. Have the students share their portfolio with a partner. You know what? It's almost like y'all read my mind. I think they read my mind, Tisha. And I know I
think they did too, because I think this is so telling, and this is something that I am so passionate about. The feedback and reflection piece in schools sometimes gets dropped, it gets missed, and it is one of the most powerful things. So, what do you have for us next? What are you going to show us?
I am so excited. So, guess what? It is a peer art reflection,
Yes.
And I took the same template and I just moved stuff around. And essentially, what it is I would set up groups for the students, but this time they would each bring in their own artwork. But the recording part would mean that you're going to record feedback for your partner. Okay. Now, as a teacher, I would definitely recommend providing some sort of script or scaffold, because this template is more so geared towards elementary. I'll get to secondary, right? But I want to make sure to call out that it would be really good to give guidelines to students before you would hand this out so that they know what their boundaries are for sure.
I want to speak to that too, because I can't stress that enough. The first time I did feedback reflections like this with my students, I am not making up. There were tears. And they didn't know how to actually give each other feedback. So it really is going to be up to the teacher to give them a rubric or a little target goal sheet or something so that they can start practicing that, because without the guidance, you can get messy.
Right. And think about this. You're also preparing students for their future. So when they go out and do whatever their future looks like in the workforce, secondary education, whatever that is, they're going to have to be able to receive and understand feedback from their peers and not take it personally, but more as a chance to grow and learn from, right? But that's hard when you're little, because it's like, well, my friend said that, so you got to give them a safe space to learn and grow in that manner. So I think this is a really great way to do that. So now this one is not necessarily an activity for you to complete. Now I'm just going to get into some examples here. So what this is, let me hop back over here, is I have, I created a secondary portfolio, and now I would turn this into an individual handout. And I did, if you guys get this later, because you're going to get the teacher link for all of these awesome activities, there's going to be a little magnifying glass on some of the pages for you, or a teacher tab. This was a template that I found in Canva that I just magically pulled over into Lumio, and it made my life so easy. But this creative portfolio would be an independent handout for secondary students. And what it would allow them to do is, as an artist, now again, this could translate into science, because maybe they need to talk about their scientific process. Maybe it's a math portfolio where they showed in different stages how they are solving algorithms or different algebraic equations, that sort of thing, right? So you could take this portfolio for any secondary student and make it whatever it is. It may even tie into if you have portrait of a graduate going on in your school district, or if you have different ways that you need artifacts for student learning goals. This portfolio template would be great to allow students to showcase different projects, different learning timestamps, that sort of thing.
Liz, why do you believe that portfolios are so powerful for students? Like, what do you see about the portfolio, even though this is a Canva template, I pulled it up, I saw it. There's so much talk of portfolios. When I was doing research for my book, we found that Portrait of a Graduate is different everywhere. They call it something different. The requirements are different. But what do you think is so powerful for the students? What are you seeing?
Oh, girl, I'm so glad you asked this question. And we were actually just talking about this at the FETC conference down in Florida, which if y'all haven't been to FETC, you really should check it out. It's a great ed tech conference. And we were having this exact conversation. Why do students need portfolio access like this? And the answer is really simple. Students need a place to be creative rather than compliant. So if we want to move students away from just clicking and dragging or being click monkeys and just answering questions in an online assessment, we have to give them a creative space, because when students are creative, you give them a place to cater to an audience more than just their teacher. Because otherwise, if they're just doing an assessment, their only audience is their teacher, right? So if you do something like this, maybe they would use this portfolio for secondary education and turn it into that institution and say, you know what, here's my art portfolio. It's developed since I was in 9th grade or whatever it is. So again, you're giving them a place to move from compliance to creativity as a learner and being proud of what they're doing in their education.
You know what I find so interesting, and I think Jonathan is still in the chat. Jonathan's one of my team members, but we talk use cases about different platforms and different tech tools that students can use. And one of the things I found in my own classroom whenever I was teaching was that portfolio gives them a safe space to make mistakes within their own environment that they've built, if that makes sense. They are looking at the teacher rubric, they're looking at what you've given them, and they are meeting those expectations. But because it's like this little corner of the world that they get to explore and they get to create and they get to reflect, it really brings about this level of confidence with them that I had never seen in my entire career. And that is one of the reasons that I talk portfolio so much. And I would even say, for those of you watching, doing this portfolio project that Liz has created for you, do it for yourself, because I think that also will help improve your own practice. It's something I did it side by side with my students. So I think, yes, Jonathan, the topic of portfolios is so I'm telling you, you can layer every one of your learning objectives and then the teachers beside you in a different subject. And then you're also adding on all of the school objectives and you're preparing them for the future. I cannot talk about this more, but my challenge to you, and this isn't Liz's CTA. We talked about CTA. She has a whole different one. My challenge to you is to go create a portfolio using this template that Liz is giving you. I'll drop the link, but I just think what it does is it helps everybody reflect on what they already know. And it also tells them where they are now, and it helps them also know where are they going next, right? So I think that is really the power in this. But I love this, and it was so easy to get this. I'm already in your Canva template, so I'll drop the link now for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that Canva template saved my tush, because it was so easy to just bring it right on over into Lumio, and then I was able to edit it and add to the Canva template with all of the Lumio greatness that it has to offer. But now in the chat, I want you guys to answer this question. How do the strategies from that portfolio or other things that I've shown you, how does it align to your own professional goals and district goals? So maybe it's Portrait of a Graduate, maybe it's something with your district priorities. So either answer in the chat or just take this moment to reflect on that. And then the other thing that I put on this page is, how can teachers actually save artifacts of student activity? So this is, I believe it's a beta feature. So I may be wrong on this, but I gave you this little disco ball here that you can pull out when you're ready to open up this activity. And you can actually export individual student work. So let's say the student builds this monumental portfolio, or you build a monumental portfolio yourself. You can actually click on an individual student handout and you can export it as a PDF. Now it is in beta, and you'll have to go, we might have to find the link for you guys to join the beta stuff. But just make sure that you're aware that yes, you can export student work in PDF format so that they have access to that portfolio outside of Lumio.
That's a great tip. And yes, we'll show you in beta, whenever you're in Lumio, your Lumio account, you're just going to look for your little person icon. You're going to click on that and you're going to sign up for beta. If you have questions, you can reach out. Anybody on the team can help you with that. But Liz is right. You want to be signed up for that beta channel so that you can really get a first look at everything.
Right. 100%. Okay, so I hope you've taken time to reflect on, okay, how would these things tie into my own professional goals or maybe some of the district goals that we're working on? But I'm going to keep going through because there's some other examples here that allow students to show their progress and skills. And as a musician, I know that practicing anything helps you grow in different ways because you learn how to be relentless, to be tenacious. You push yourself when you learn how to set up practicing. So these examples that I'm going to go through talk about healthy practice habits. And people talk about homework habits, right? But there's also some importance in learning how to practice, whether it's as a musician or as a language learner, whatever that practice looks like, right? You can set up practice spaces in Lumio for your students. What does that actually look like, though? So giving them, okay, when you go home to practice, finding a space where you can practice, or in the classroom, here are my practice spaces for you. So set up what the practice actually looks like. But now I've actually created templates for band practice. And what does this actually mean? This means you could individually hand this out to a student and they could do an audio recording of themselves. And they could be audio recording, so they could like play it back and listen to how their instrument sounds. But you could do the same with speaking. Maybe they need to practice a speech that they need to work on, or they need to practice their, like I'm thinking of as a reader, you want to make sure that they have different tone of voice and things like that. So giving them a space to practice and record allows them to also listen back and reflect on it. So these templates that you see on these next pages, they're really just practice pages that you could hand out to the students to give them a safe place to practice and voice. The other thing you could do for those of you that need to send content to your students to practice on their own is you can, again, embed YouTube videos of practice materials. Maybe it's a video of yourself. Now, I know that puts yourself in a vulnerable space, right? But maybe it's you doing a video of showing students how to practice a particular spot in a piece of music that's really difficult. Or this video I found on YouTube is a choir piece that I would have sent to my students so that they could practice at home on their own. So again, utilize that YouTube feature so that you can give students practice materials so they're not so stressed out about it. But then on that same token, for visual arts, you could give them a demo space. Maybe they want to, again, give their artist statement and they want to demo how they did a piece of art. They could also record a video on their device and then link it on this page. I'm hoping at some point to convince Lumio that one of my wants and desires, and I'm pretty sure this is going to blow up the chat. So Tisha's going to be like, girl.
No, we want to hear it. We want to hear it.
Yeah. So one of my desires of Lumio is to be able to embed videos right on the page, because that would be super powerful if students could visually record right on a Lumio page, because we did the audio. That's great. But now I'm hoping feature request. Okay, so we're going to keep going here because we've shown a lot of different examples. So the question is which activities shown so far help students shift from compliance to creative engagement? Which activities did you like the most to give the students a space for creativity rather than just compliance or clicking? And you're going to go ahead and answer in the webinar chat.
You know what, Liz, I think there's so many answers to this.
Right.
And I just want to go back. I think probably, people, the question that you're asking them is something that has sat with me since you first said it when we were talking portfolios. You said, what activities and what activities are you doing right now that are helping students go from compliance to creative? And I think that question alone is really so challenging for all of us, especially those of us that went to teacher college, and that was not a topic, right? It wasn't something that we learned. We sort of went in there, and it is, Jennifer says it's hard to select just one. I think what your whole lesson has done actually is it really challenged us to think critically, also work together, right? With all the different activities. It was so easy, and so many of the things you did in one click, right? You did a couple of things for us in one click. You showed us how to edit. You gave us time to think. I think that is really what it is. Everything you showed, Shelley's not wrong. I mean, we're not saying that, you always want that answer when you're presenting, like what stood out, and somebody says everything, but I think it really is the whole experience. Would you say that this is true or false, Liz, that Lumio creates this learning experience for students rather than just a sit and get?
Oh, 100%. I think that's why I have used Lumio and smart products as long as I have, because I've seen the power of how you can get students from sit and get, or just click and drag and just click monkey type stuff yes. into more. I'm sorry. I
love how you're referencing that. But the truth of the matter is so many teachers really all over the world are still in that pattern. I was in that habit myself until someone showed me a tool that really changed everything for me as a teacher. And I think Lumio has the power for that. I think when you start thinking and reflecting on your classes and you think, okay, I mean, this could go for anybody. This could go for adults too, right? This could go for adults leading meetings. Am I just having them sit and get? Am I just having them click to get a right answer? Or am I asking them to be creative instead of compliant? I think that is really the powerful piece of this. And Jonathan loves your click monkey reference. So he's going to start using that. And I just think, though, it says a lot, because you've been teaching for 15 years. You're not new to this. You've been using Smart and Lumio forever. And I think, the one clicks for teachers to be able to bring that engagement and creativity to their students is the power of Lumio. So I think people are having a difficult time answering this because we want to say everything. Everything you did, Liz, was perfect.
Oh, perfect. Like progress over perfection, though. So I'm always looking at like the next thing, but I appreciate y'all. I'm glad that you guys are finding these beneficial. So I am going to keep going here. I did want to make a shout out that I also made some templates for language practice. So if you teach world language classes and you want students to have a place where they can practice conversing, maybe it's something that you give them, and it could be an individual handout here. Let me go back a page though. So what this allows you to do is the student would write a script, right? They would write a script in the language that they're doing, but then they would record themselves speaking. And it's probably going to be a question that you're asking them in that language in class that they have to answer. But then they can hear themselves and they can reflect on, oh, I didn't use the right verb, or maybe I'm just really struggling with conversational Spanish or French, whatever it is. But would be an independent handout. But then you guessed it, I took it a step further, where I'm going to bypass this page for time purposes, where now they could do a partner dialogue where one partner records maybe a question in French, but then the second partner has to answer that question in French. So you're giving them a place to practice dialogue in different languages here. So I have to give a shout out to my language learning friends here. You could also do a live partner discussion. So let's say Tisha and I had the privilege of sitting in the same room together and we were practicing in Espanol. We could do a live conversation with each other and record it right here in Lumio for my teacher to hear. And then remember back to our discussion about leaving teacher feedback. The teacher would be able to leave feedback right on this page about that discussion. Hey, you guys did a great job back and forth, blah, 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 whatever it is. So again, these are some templates that you guys are welcome to use, and know that almost everything that I did today was in the Lumio library. So whether it was in the art and music collection, it might have been something in the music with Flat, because that's a great partnership for my music friends out there. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And I used a ton of the ready-made resources, as well as searching in the Lumio library, and I would just filter by subject. So I wanted to give that shout out to the Lumio library, that there's lots of stuff that I just took and made. And I didn't have to do a whole lot of like thought process behind that. It made it super easy to do. Okay. And then from here, guess what? I'm sharing everything with you. I'm so excited about this. All of
Thank you, Liz. This is so good. I have put Liz's teacher link, you've all been asking for it, in the chat. What I want to say, this is so cool. You're giving references. You are modeling digital citizenship in a way that just makes my heart so happy. And you're giving them all of the things so that they can be set up for success.
Oh, I'm so excited, and I'm glad that you guys get to walk away with all of this. So make sure you check out all of the reference activities that I did today. And then there is an exit ticket here. So I'm going to bypass this though, because there's some other stuff that I want to showcase. Please check me out on LinkedIn. There's a QR code there. My link is not showing up, but I can add that in a little bit here. But make sure you find me on LinkedIn so we can connect. And as a bonus, there's encore activities. And I'm not going to show all of them, but y'all, I had so many great activities. I'm like, I don't know where to go with this. But after slide 45, there are a bunch of different activities that are my encore activities that I'm going to let y'all have. Make sure you keep them for yourself and use them as you need to. But otherwise, please connect with me from around the world. I want to hear from you. I want to learn from you. And I am so appreciative to Smart and Lumio today for everything, for giving me the space to show all of this and work with the visual and performing arts. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, Liz. It's our pleasure to host our ambassadors and give you guys an opportunity to lead sessions, show what you know, and inspire everyone around the world. So many people are excited. Carolyn's mind blown. Jennifer actually has a request for you for some ukulele resources because dare we guess, there probably aren't that many out there.
Right.
So that might be really amazing. You've just got all kinds of fans in the chat. And I have also shared your Instagram and Facebook, Liz. What I would love to ask you, just kind of wrapping things up here, and I'll take the screen off just for a second so I can just have the two of us. If you were talking to a brand new Lumio user, what would you say to them when they get into Lumio and they sort of freeze? What is your advice?
My advice, if you're just getting started with Lumio, is start small and simple. And, you know, even though we were talking earlier about the click and drag, the power of Lumio is that there's so many things already built for you. So when you go to that awesome add button in the top left corner and you're just getting started, know that you can pick from any of their ready-made resources and just make it super simple to get going. But the other benefit is if you're like, I just want to use some of the stuff I have, you can also upload and start using your own stuff when you click on that plus button. So my biggest thing is think about how you want Lumio to be a space for your students to be more engaged in what you're teaching. That is what Lumio is meant to do, and you can absolutely use it in that way. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, so I have one more question for you because I was a veteran teacher, and as a veteran teacher, you know, we get in there and we're like, we're just going to do things the way that we've always done them because they've always worked. And maybe you have some veteran Lumio users like yourself. What would you tell them if they're like, I'm not inspired. What can I do? What is your advice to those people?
So if you're a veteran and you've been using it a while like me, sometimes it takes a person. So I'm going to be that person today. And I'm going to say, okay, shake off what you've always done and be disruptive. I actually have a colleague who tells us all the time, be disruptive in terms of disrupting yourself. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you can't always do what you've always done. And you may have to step outside of your own comfort zone and think of how you want students to learn. And if you are not providing that for the students, then use Lumio to help you accomplish that. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable when people are like, what do you mean I'm not teaching it in an engaging way? I'm not saying that as like a dig. It just means you may have gotten comfortable with what you've always done. but that doesn't mean that all of your students are going to be able to learn in that way. Okay, I know that was pretty blunt, but
it's pretty blunt. But I think, you know what, I think so many people just need that reminder. If you're still here, I have the survey link for you. You're going to receive your certificate of attendance. So I've dropped that in a couple of times. And then speaking of something new, Liz, I have something new for you and the rest of the people. And what we're going to start using is we're going to start using the hashtag for ambassadors, hashtag smart Lumio ambassadors. And if you haven't taken a screenshot of Liz yet on the webinar and shouted her out, you want to use that hashtag. And I'm also going to drop all of the social media channels for Lumio and Smart so that you can make sure that you are following all of those and using those hashtags as well. Our team loves to know what your stories are. We love for you to share about what you're doing in your classroom or even asking questions. We're all there to support you. So hashtag Smart Lumio ambassadors. Liz, thank you so much for taking time out of your school day to share with everyone here. And again, we just appreciate you all so much for joining us. Be ready for February. We have another great session coming up, ambassador-led session for February. So be watching for that. And if you're interested in following in Liz's footsteps, you just reach out to me. Again, Liz, thank you so much for your brilliance and your time. We just had so much fun with you.
Thank you so much, Tisha. And thank you, everybody who was able to join live today.
Okay, we'll see you guys soon. Let us know if you have any questions. But until next time, have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.